Nothing like a weekend full of penalties thanks to the ever more complicated handball rule in a post-VAR world. Am I right? Hello, I'm Adrian, and welcome to the Weekend Recap XL edition. As I really do feel like I owe you guys one after I was away on vacation last week. Let's get into it. No more preamble besides saying that I missed you and thanks for joining us here. Oh, and if you're new, don't be shy. Say hello in the comments, and if you like the look of this place, feel free to stick around. It's me and Michel Plantini. Let's start with Manchester United versus Brighton, in which there were plenty of talking points throughout this match. In the first half, Maupay converted a penalty, and a Lewis Dunk own goal from a free kick brought United level. And then it was VAR o'clock, baby. First, we had Connolly going down in the box with Pogba challenging him. This penalty shout was ultimately overturned after consulting with VAR, and I personally was okay with that decision. There's an argument to be made in saying that Pogba was caught out of position, and was clumsy, and could have been punished for it. And that has some merit, I think. But for me, Connolly had no interest in playing the ball and was more interested in getting into Pogba's path and forcing the foul instead of playing the ball and trying to score. I don't like when people are awarded for that. I realize it's just part of the game now, but in my opinion, I think it's okay to not give a penalty. In this instance, Rashford scored twice, one of which was offside, so United carried a 2-1 lead until the 94th minute, when Solly March, who had a fantastic game down that left side by the way, was left unmarked at the back post to equalize. Well deserved for Brighton, as they had hit the woodwork 5 times in the 90 minutes, 5 times, and completely outchanced United throughout. However, as I said on Twitter, football is pain. And with the absolute last opportunity of the match in the 96th minute, I believe it was, a header towards goal was blocked by the outstretched arm of Maupay, or deflected by the outstretched arm of Maupay, and the referee blew the whistle for full time shortly after that. But then VAR got involved and told him to check the handball, which was by all means a penalty. No one can deny that. But the fact that the final whistle had been blown really got tempers flaring on the pitch. Now, according to IFAB, with the amended rules since VAR has been introduced, the referee can indeed call it back to award the penalty. The rules used to state that once the final whistle is blown, that's it, basically. But we live in a post-VAR world now, and that leaves room for instances like this. No doubt it was a handball, that was worthy of a penalty, but you can sympathize with Brighton on a human level as to how harsh that call seems, especially after the great match that they played, completely outplaying United, hitting the woodwork 5 times, I'll say it again, having a penalty of their own cancelled, with which divided opinion, you'll remember, and then losing in the 98th minute from a VAR call once the final whistle had blown, and yet again Bruno Fernandes scoring a penalty. Unfortunate for them. United, they've picked up from where they left off a bit last season, it seems, as they're not looking too inspiring on the pitch. A loss to Crystal Palace, and a horrendous showing against Brighton. There is a world where they could have started with 0 points from 2 matches, but they've pulled one out of the hat, and they got a win. Everton faced off against Crystal Palace as well, and overall Everton continued to be impressive. It wasn't their most dominant performance of the season thus far, but it was indeed their 5th consecutive win of the season, meaning Carlo Ancelotti is the first Everton manager in 82 years to win the first 5 matches of a season. Another great performance from James, a goal from Richarlison from the spot, and a stunning team goal that Calvert-Lewin finished off just 10 minutes into the match. 2-1 Everton. Sheffield United versus Leeds, a matchup I was looking forward to when Leeds gained promotion, and it was Leeds who looked the stronger of the 2 teams, especially, sorry for hitting the mic, especially in the second half of this one. But in the first, Sheffield should have been ahead when they squandered a huge opportunity, and Leeds took over in the second, as mentioned, culminating in an 87th minute winner from Patrick Bamford. And they said this man couldn't cut it in the Premier League. That's 3 goals now from his first 3 matches, and perhaps the most important part of this victory, in Bielsa's eyes at least, a clean sheet. They defended well. 1-0 Leeds. West Brom is a team that a lot of people have going down this season, myself included, and they absolutely rollicked Chelsea in the first 30 minutes of this match, on the scoreboard at least, as they completely exposed the biggest question marks that surround this team, their defense and their keeper positions, as Willy Caballero was favored ahead of both Kepa and the newly arrived Edouard Mendy. I don't think that will happen much more. I think Mendy's going to take over. And by the way, I recently did a video on Kepa and how he was never the right keeper for Chelsea in the first place. At least how his price tag at £71.6 million was never justified, and what various experts have to say surrounding Mendy and what to expect of him. Do check it out if you're interested. But anyways, it was a nightmare Premier League debut for Thiago Silva, as he and Caballero both had blood on their hands in this match. Same could be said of Alonso, who was brought out at the half. West Brom were 3-0 up after just 27 minutes, a brace from Callum Robinson. Throughout the entirety of the match, 3 shots on target from West Brom, 3 goals scored. But with Lampard bringing in Azpilicueta and Hudson-Odoi, Chelsea were much better in the second, and both substitutes left their mark on the match, with Azpi setting up Mount to make it 3-1. Mount had a great game, by the way. Then Havertz setting up Hudson-Odoi. Another promising performance from Havertz as he's getting used to this team. And finally, Abraham equalized in the 93rd minute. 3-3 Chelsea. They saved themselves from their blushes, or at least some of their blushes. It wasn't a loss, but it surely wasn't a good performance, especially in that first half. Tottenham had a strange one. They played really well for the most part in this match and were deserving leaders from a Lucas Moura goal against Newcastle United. I mean, besides his goal though, Lucas was as frustrating as ever to watch. Poor passing costing Tottenham way too many times in transition, but for the most part, it was a good performance from Spurs, from the rest of the boys. And then a whack handball call reared its ugly head again. For me, that cannot be a penalty. It takes away from a solid Spurs performance right at the death, but that's the way football goes these days, I guess. Saying of the weekend, football is pain. 1-1 the final, which was harsh on Spurs. Nothing harsh about the penalty calls in the City vs Leicester game, in my opinion, as Leicester converted 3 penalties, 2 by Vardy, 1 by Tielemans, and scored twice from open play as well, to really lay the smackdown on Pep's side. Now, it's got to be said, this wasn't Manchester City. They are absolutely rocked by injuries right now, but it still was a poor performance defensively, as long balls forward exposed them, and the midfield didn't seem to have the cover that it needed. You know, I mean, I don't know if Fernandinho got a knock, but taking him out really was their downfall. 5-2 the final score. A goal from Nathan Ake was probably a high point for City fans. And it looks as if they've taken Ruben Dias, and a lot of City fans are upset. But I can tell you he will be an absolute plus to their back line. What I've seen of their horrid performances in the last year or so definitely tell me that a tough guy like Ruben Dias will be more than welcome in that back line and will do quite well. And finally, Wolves got slapped by West Ham. An uncharacteristic loss from Wolves away to West Ham. I mean, a lot of people, again, have West Ham going down. I personally do not. But they looked good in this one. Or at least, at the very least, Wolves' back line looked very bad. It was an interesting one in the Bundesliga, as none of the teams that you expected to win won. First off, the main shocker, Bayern Munich suffered their first loss of 2020 at the hands of Hoffenheim. Respect to Hoffenheim, man, as they haven't been too bad lately. They finished their season quite strong, the 1920 season, and they climbed up to 6th, and they've continued to do well. They're in 1st currently, after 2 matches. But Bayern didn't just lose, they lost 4-1, which is shocking. Massive performance from Hoffenheim, but there have been rumblings that Flick and even some of the players aren't convinced that Bayern have enough reinforcements in the squad in order to consistently play the kind of high-tempo football that he wants to. The pace and high pressing, it takes a toll. Now, this game was different as they dominated possession and Hoffenheim hit them on the counter, but Flick won't have been happy with the amount of opportunities they allowed Hoffenheim and the opportunities that Bayern themselves squandered. And in turn, they spurned a good opportunity to gain a step on Dortmund, who put in an absolute stinker against Augsburg. Going into this game, all I heard about was how Dortmund were going to smash Augsburg, how Haaland scored a few against them last time, and how he would no doubt do it again. But what happened? Dortmund fielded an extremely young side. I mean, their squad is extremely young to begin with. And they couldn't bury their opportunities. They had at least 2 moments where they absolutely have to finish, and they fluffed their lines. Shout out to Daniel Caligiuri and Felix Udwokai for Augsburg, 2-0 winners. Big up Augsburg. For Borussia Mönchengladbach, it was also a frustrating weekend, as Marco Rose's side were held at home against Union Berlin. We also had our first sacking of the Bundesliga season, as FC Schalke, who have been horrid in 2020, absolutely horrible, lost yet again. After the 8-0 slapping from Bayern last week, they went on to lose 3-1 at home against Werder Bremen, and that was it for David Wagner. I mean, Schalke were patient with him, but in taking into consideration the collapse in the second half of last season, they were at 5th, I believe, after the COVID break, and then they ended up mid-table. There was only one outcome, Wagner out. It's too bad. I mean, his side scored 1 goal in their opening 2 matches and conceded 11, losing both matches. That is the worst start ever in the Bundesliga for any team. Elsewhere, we also had Leverkusen drawing with RB Leipzig, as Leverkusen are still in search of their first win. 2 draws for them. VfB Stuttgart, they got their first win since returning to the Bundesliga, as they won 4-1 against Mainz. A classic Bundesliga team, Stuttgart. Happy to see them back and winning games. Speaking of which, a fellow promoted side in Arminia Bielefeld also got a win. 1-0 over Köln. My poor Köln. How they have suffered lately, starting the season out with 2 losses already. I mean, they were terrible after the COVID break. And that seems to be continuing, unfortunately. La Liga! All the boys were playing this weekend in Spain after their strange, staggered start to the season. Real Madrid suffered a scare against Real Betis. Despite Benzema and Fede Valverde linking up in the 14th minute, Real Betis scored 2 goals in 2 minutes to take a 2-1 lead into the second half. Another goal for William Carvalho, his second in consecutive matches, I believe, a rarity for him. Real Madrid are still trying to figure out how to play Martin Odegaard. We've seen some changes to the shape of Real Madrid in order to fit him in, to accommodate him, but it just hasn't clicked just yet. And you wonder if Zidane will once again default to his favorites if results start to go awry. I mean, he even started Luka Jovic in this one. We'll see how long that lasts. An Emerson own goal by Betis brought them level, and then Emerson completed the nightmare by getting himself sent off 20 minutes later. And finally, Real Betis, as a team, completed their final seppuku in giving a penalty away in the 80th minute, which Sergio Ramos converted for the victory. 3-2 Real Madrid. They got a lot of help from Real Betis in this one. Real Sociedad, got their first win of the season after a couple of draws. Solid form from Imanol and Real Sociedad as they beat newly promoted Elche 3-0 in a match where Sociedad never looked like they were in danger. Yes, they labored in finding a goal. It took them almost an hour, but they were so dominant otherwise. Hey, remember Roberto Lopez, who I mentioned in the last weekend recap? He added another for 2 goals and 2 appearances for him, 2 assists from Mikel Merino. Man of the match once again for Real Sociedad. Ale la Real. Now, Sevilla gave Bayern Munich one hell of a game in the UEFA Super Cup, exhibiting all of the hallmarks of their season as far as defensive solidity goes, and if it weren't for a couple of saves from Manuel Neuer and misfires from En-Nesyri, they may have won the damn cup. But they came back to Spain to take on Cadiz, another new side, and they left it very late. After locking it in at 1-1 for the majority of the match, a late double from Sevilla gave them the 3-1 win. Munir getting the winner there to give Sevilla their first win from their first match this season. My eyes were of course glued on the Atletico Madrid match in hopes that we would see Suarez make his debut, and my oh my, did he ever deliver. Well, first of all, it must be said, Granada are currently going through their Europa League qualifying, so they had a rotated squad for this match. But still, it was a great performance from Atletico. João Felix is looking more and more comfortable there after he showed against Leipzig what Benfica fans had been telling the world he was capable of. And then he picked up from where he left off in this match and put in a fantastic display. 1 goal and 1 assist, plus he won the penalty that Atletico missed once again. That seems to always happen. I swear he wins them penalties often and isn't allowed to take them most of the time. And he's a damn good penalty taker. It doesn't make sense to me. But of course, the highlight of the match was Luis Suarez coming in with 20 minutes left on the clock, and he set up Marcos Llorente first, then scored a stunning header, and then buried his own rebound later on to round out his brace. 6-1 the final score, and he really could be the missing link in that team. I'm personally very excited to see him play alongside João Felix. I feel like technically, Suarez in place of Morata or Diego Costa, finally João Felix has someone to play with, you know? And someone that can finish. And Suarez's former team, Barcelona, as I rotate my chair, played at home against a very, very poor Villarreal side. You know, with the investments they've made and, you know, buying Valencia's midfield, you'd think that... Oh. Yeah, you're right. I'm joking. I can't help but like Unai Emery for some reason, man. He seems like such a nice guy. Such a likable guy. He's harmless. Ansu Fati was the star of this match as he scored a brace with a goal in the 15th and then the 19th. Quick work. I really thought Messi would have allowed him to take the penalty in the 35th minute for the hat-trick, but it's Messi in 2020. No given anymore. But no, I mean, I do get it. It's still the first half, and a 2-0 lead is definitely one that a team can come back from. So it's best to make it 3 and bury the game. Not that Messi's penalty conversion rate is the best ever, but that's beyond the point. It got worse for Villarreal. Pau Torres with an own goal in the 46th minute, because nothing's better than scoring a goal in your own goal in the first half stoppage time to put yourself 4-0 behind Barcelona with a second half still yet to come. But I mean, it stayed at 4-0. Another really poor performance from Antoine Griezmann, and with the promise that Trincão has shown so far, with how well Fati has been playing so far, with Coutinho looking certainly much better than previous versions of the Barcelona Coutinho, Griezmann could find himself on the bench soon. 4-0 Barca, good start to their campaign. Hello and welcome to Italy. We are in Italy now, as you can tell. Napoli are rolling on with yet another impressive performance. They beat Parma 2-0 last match, and this match saw them win 6-0 over Genoa. Genoa with more disaster classes following their disaster class of 2019-20. But Napoli, their attack is firing like it hasn't for quite some time, it feels like. Dries Mertens with a goal and 2 assists, Irving Lozano with a brace, which is great to see after he struggled last season a bit, Politano getting in on the fun, Zielinski looking sharp. Great performance overall from Napoli, despite losing one of their talisman and one of their greatest goal threats, Insigne, about 20 minutes in, and it looks like he'll be out for about 3 weeks or so, give or take a week. Inter Milan played out a classic with Fiorentina, a 7-goal thriller. Fiorentina actually opened the scoring just 3 minutes in, as Inter looked pretty uninspired in the opening 15 or so minutes. They were slow starters. It was laborious for them in the attack, but they got their equalizer in the 47th minute in added time. Following that, they went ahead thanks to a Ceccherini own goal, but Franck Ribéry grabbed control of this match for a brief moment for Fiorentina, racking up 2 assists in 6 minutes to put Fiorentina ahead. Goals from Castrovilli and the man eternally linked away from Fiorentina, Federico Chiesa. 2 goals against the run of play for Fiorentina, and then Fiorentina had to weather the storm. They had to bunker down, and they had done so until the 87th minute when Hakimi picked out Lukaku for the equalizer. Great first time pass from Hakimi, and then it happened. In the 89th minute, Alexis Sanchez scooped the ball to the back post, bit of a deflection on the cross, and Danilo D'Ambrosio powered the header past Dragovski, 4-3 Inter. Roma and Juventus was an eye-catching matchup, and it was a decent watch. Not the best game of football I've seen, but it had goals, it had a stupid red card from Adrien Rabiot, and when Pirlo, I mean, he should have pulled him off earlier, in my opinion. And it also had a brace from Ronaldo, as I butchered that last sentence. Thank you so much, this is why I am the host. But first, Jordan Veretout opened the scoring for Roma with a penalty from a handball, and then it was Ronaldo's turn to equalize from the spot thanks to a handball. So many handballs this weekend. But before Juve could even process that they were level once again, they were behind once again. Everyone was forward for a free kick, a poorly taken one at that, leaving Roma to counter through Mkhitaryan and Veretout, and the Frenchmen slotted past Szczesny 2-1 Roma. But in the second half, as mentioned, Adrien Rabiot grabbed a second yellow card for a stupid foul right in front of the referee. McKennie should have been left on the pitch, Rabiot taken off earlier for Arthur, as he looked determined to grab that second yellow card. But hey, I don't have my coaching badges, so who am I to say? Juve actually looked okay while they were a man down. I mean, they didn't look much worse than on level footing, which I guess shows how poor they were before. Dzeko should have won the match. Cristiano Ronaldo showed that he can indeed levitate. He's known to do so now and then, and he did so against Roma once again, scoring that towering header for the equalizer. 2 goals for him already. And finally, Atalanta and AC Milan both got wins. Atalanta first, as they were 4-2 up after just 60 minutes, with all signs pointing towards the same sort of form that they were in last season. Papu Gomez, Muriel, and Hans Hatboer all scored in the first half for Atalanta, as Andrea Ballotti, someone saved this guy from Torino, scored a brace for his side. Then Muriel set up Martin de Roon in the second half, 4-2, done and dusted. AC Milan got their second win on the trot. their second 2-0 win on the trot as they overcame Crotone, not the most fierce opponent, Franck Kessié with the penalty, and then Brahim Diaz quality goal following his first start for Milan. The injury to Ante Rebic will be a bit of a worry, especially with some of their other absences, but Rafael Leão is back, and Zlatan should be back soon as well. And that's it! The longest weekend recap ever? I actually don't think so. Maybe it is, but as I said, after being gone last week, I owed you guys one. I thank you for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed yourself. My name is Adrian, this is Rabona TV, and we'll see you in the next video. Maybe on Ruben Dias. Watch out, City fans. Ciao!